because the halo says you have to vote for Clinton because if you vote for Trump, you're a racist. But people are actually going to vote for Trump. And so that's why I don't like at all the reliance on exit poll data. It bothers
the supposition
me.
about the exit poll data is that you wouldn't see such widespread and large discrepancies, and that in any other circumstance, that would be like if we were monitoring some other country's election and they had similar discrepancies, we would investigate further.
You could say that, but the British have had, discrepancies this large. I'm not surprised that there's a very large discrepancy in the exit poll data and the votes that were received. Sure, is there going to be some foul play? I don't doubt that at all. But the fact of the matter is people lie at the exit polls, and they do it in large numbers. Think back to George W. Bush. How many people do you know?
I'm not arguing that the people don't lie. I'm just saying that, that by that standard, even accounting for the lying, if exit poll data was as off as it was in our case, it would be cause for an investigation by the UN election group.
If it was truthfully,
if they were monitoring.
But they are. One of their jobs is to monitor these kinds of elections. Let's, if we want to talk about election rigging, let's talk about actual election rigging. We rigged the elections in Italy for years. Yeah. We rigged Italy for years, and you rig it with money. You rig it with things like that. So, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. All I'm saying is I don't like their over-reliance on exit poll data when it's so easy to manipulate what was said and who did it.
But Adair, exit poll data shows a consistent ratio of, if it's above 2.5%, that it varies from the actual result. Within those 2.5% variable, you have people lying. They are factored in to the 2.5% margin of error that the exit poll can have before you declare it suspicious.
Not every poll will have the same margin of error. What are the things?
Exit polls, yes. They have to say, listen, there's a big difference between polling, which is random telephone to random person, and then exit polling, which is a person standing outside each and every polling station in the country, asking each and every person coming out, what and who did you vote for? They get an extremely high percentage of the voters to tell them. It's almost an extra election. And the variable of 2.5% of accuracy is simply to account for lying, to account for missampling by simply being unlucky and asking 10 Trump supporters in a row, and then only one Hillary, one Trump, one Hillary after that. So that is what the 2.5% are for. So exit poll data in all across the world is seen as extremely reliable. That is why it's a rule of thumb that if the election result is skewed more than 2.5% off of exit poll data, then you investigate the election result.
Here's the thing about that. That assumes that there's always someone there doing that data and they're doing it well. Washington State, not once have I filled on, not once we all vote by mail here. No exit poll data is really found. You can go, even when we had voting booths, people weren't standing there asking, well, who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? You could also have a large number of people that just choose not to answer. It's not required. So there's any number of variables, and a lot of polling sites don't necessarily have it. Am I saying there's nothing suspicious? No. I'm saying that there's a lot of claims made, and I'm not seeing the actual numbers they use. I'm not seeing the actual formulas, and I'm not seeing the actual papers that they're saying, well, this says this because of this person over here. If you're going to make that claim, then you need to make that claim, or that person who actually did the math needs to make that claim. And that is my biggest issue, because it goes back to illiteracy about reading the projects of people. And I don't trust election justice. I think the hand-counted ballots are important. I think that's better. I think there was some stuff that's going fishy. But to claim that, well, this didn't happen, Bernie would win in a landslide, in my opinion, is garbage. Bernie should have won, yes. Was there crap done that shouldn't have been done? Absolutely. Do I think it's as devious and as large scale as they're saying? Not at all. If that's the case, why didn't Jeb Bush win? if we're talking about rigging elections, why didn't Jeb win?
Because you can only rig the margins. If you want to rig the entire election, then you need to actually have soldiers march in with a box full of uncounted ballots that are all for your guy. And you have to fly in the face of every opinion poll out there saying that Jeb Bush is going to lose, Jeb Bush is going to lose, he's going to lose, he's going to lose. If he then all of a sudden beats expectations, 10 states in a row going from only 5% of the vote to 51% of the vote, then you go, okay, something's fishy here. This isn't real. So you need someone who's actually contending before you can rig it.
But here's the thing, though, is Jeb Bush was contending before the election started. They could have done a whole number of things that we're accusing Clinton of having done. They could have closed polling places in rural Republican areas, which tend to heavily vote Trump. They could have made more access in Latino-rich areas.
They did do all of this.
Well,
if
one
you
thing is
go
that Republicans
follow the Trump sites, you will see that they had the exact same grievances about Trump and access for Trump and media's portrayal of Trump as we had about Bernie. Now,
what
in their case,
portrayal?
What?
He's been our complaint about Bernie is he was never in the media. Trump has been #1 in the media.
Yeah, but the portrayal of him has never been positive. So
because he's never been positive.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, Adair. What I'm saying is, if you go to the Trump sites, you will see that their grassroots effort has encumbered the exact same obstacles that Bernie's grassroots effort ran into constantly, which is the closing of the polling places, the constant belittling from the establishment that you could not go to your Republican party station, local affiliate and get stickers for your candidate, that they would have them only for Jeb Bush and maybe one other and none for Trump. So they were up against the exact same wall that we were up against. What they had going for them, they saw it as a negative, but what they had going for them was that Trump was in the media constantly, whereas Bernie wasn't.
So let's talk specifically about local party organizations only having stickers for one candidate. The local party is not the DNC. The DNC has rules where they are supposed to be, and they broke that rule, but they are supposed to be impartial. Local parties are not by any stretch of the imagination. Most of the LDs here in Washington State, for example, voted for their endorsements right after primary season kicked off. They're like, who are we going to endorse? Because once we have that figured out, then we're going to start campaigning for that person in the state. And most of them voted to endorse Hillary Clinton because there was not a very large movement for Bernie Sanders in Washington at the time. A lot of that mobilization effort started the moment she announced her candidacy, because so many people, and myself included at first, were like, yeah, Hillary Clinton's going to run. I would absolutely vote for her, even though my first choice was Senator Warren.
Yeah, but your original point was, if that rigging went on against Bernie on that level, why didn't it go on for Bush on the same level? And what I'm trying to tell you is it did.
I would disagree, just because I don't see it actually happening, but that's more of a matter
of... But you didn't see it happening because you are not part of the Trump grassroots bubble. I didn't see it happening either. We didn't see it happening until like 6 months in, when Kelly's mom, who's a Trump supporter, unfortunately, told Kelly about these things, and Kelly started looking into them, and she actually found out that this had been going on for as long as it had been going on against Bernie, just against Trump.
But how is that rigging if local parties can choose to endorse who they want? We talk about rigging. Rigging to me have to come from the RNC and the DNC. It cannot come from the local parties. I have to grab my charger real quick, though. I'll be right back. Otherwise, I'm going to be out of this conversation, and it's actually quite good.
I think there's a difference between rigging and equality, and just because the rules say they can endorse whoever they want doesn't mean that it's fair if you have a portion of your organization. So I get your point in this. It may not technically be rigging, but it's not fair. It's not an equal opportunity, and it's not providing the same.
That's not what I'm talking about in any way, shape, or form.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Brandon. Okay, we have a show today.
Oh, wait, before we go into that, I will say that I agree with Nifs. You should not fall into the habit of delegitimizing other people's claims simply because you disagree with their political point of view. No matter how egregious it may be. Like, I would not want them disenfranchising Klansmen for just because they're Klansmen. So it's like it's easy to say the Trump grassroots people were complaining, and they're not really grassroots. They're astroturf, the same sort of stuff that went on with the Tea Party. But ultimately, their complaints should be taken seriously because, like there's a lot of analogy. There's analogous to what went on here.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to make a similar point, but you made it much better.
Second, if you're going to, but let me just go back to your first point there. If you're a problem with election, I mean, I only cut the tail end, but if your problem with election justice is that the metric that they use for determining whether something is a rigged election, which is an international measurement they use in other places, exit poll data versus actual turnout or whatever you want to call it, then you have to make the argument for why they're. Because in statistics, that's the chi-square, that's your p-variable, the variable that describes statistical significance. Like this number is statistically significant, and it's meant to account for lying, meant to account for missing people, meant to account for all these things. The burden goes on to you to explain why you feel like that number is not statistically significant enough. Like if we were gonna say, like if this were a medical study, and they turned out like, oh well, 2% of people who took X drug, came down with herpes spontaneously, but that's not statistically significant. You'd have to redo your math and explain why that's not statistically significant. Not to them. Like that's part of that. That's their variable. They have proof for why it's.
I've argued that point, that exact point, and the reason why I'm arguing that point is because we're saying exit poll data is the gospel that in their claim.
The gospel. We're saying that if it varies beyond the margin of error, you should investigate the election.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be investigated. I'm making issue with the claim that they're saying, based on this, Bernie Sanders would have won in a landslide. I'm making issue with that claim. I'm not making an issue with saying that it needs to be investigated. We all agree wholeheartedly that there are some things that need to be investigated. Arizona, New York, things that were going on in California, all of the issues that need to be investigated. But I do have an issue with making the overreaching claim that Bernie Sanders should have won in a landslide. Because
I
don't have the methodology. Give me the methodology. Tell me.
They have given you the methodology.
Where at? Where
it's
exactly?
In the 100-page report.
These polls.
Adair,
and I'm looking at the data.
You can do the math yourself. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can go on SPF.
Do the math is also what I'm saying.
They did do the math though. You just have a difference of opinion about what is statistically significant.
Listen, I actually got this before this was sent out to everybody. I got this in Philadelphia, and I talked to the author of the article of the 100-page report. She said, I took the numbers, the ideas of a Georgetown PhD statistician, and I just said, well, this is this. She didn't actually do the. I want to see his numbers, his process. I want to get where they're getting all of their export.
Then go see it.
Changes.
Then go see it. They name the Georgetown statistician. So if you want to, Adair,
nobody's hiding the information.
So if you want to see the info, go see it.
Which I've already looked for, and that's part of why I've had this issues. I've had this months before you guys got it, and I've already looked up as much as I could without finding a whole lot. I have an issue with their big claim. Their big claim, Bernie Sanders wins in a landslide. You don't have, in my opinion, the evidence to back that up. Don't make that claim, because then we all look like loonies.
Okay, but 5 minutes ago, Adair, your big grievance wasn't with that claim. Your big grievance was with exit polls. And exit polls are used as a standard across the world. And you want to pick it apart because people might not talk about who they actually voted for.
That's one issue. There's the issue of
but Adair, that is calculated into the margin of error. That's why there is a margin of error.
It calculates all of those possible variables. I have an issue with it, and I'm not going to get over this issue. And I've had this issue with it for the last almost 3 months.
But see, I'm confused. Do you have an issue with the hyperbolic statement that Bernie Sanders would have won, or do you have an issue with the international standard for what constitutes voter fraud?
I don't have an issue with people using exit poll data. Now let me see this one more time. Their claim is that Bernie Sanders would have won in a landslide because the exit poll data says this. What we use exit poll data for is to investigate if it's beyond that margin of error, which we don't disagree with. The reason why I'm picking at the exit poll data in particular is because that is what the crux of their argument of Bernie winning by a landslide is. When you're going to make that kind of claim, I don't feel that significant because you need to do an investigation. Let the investigation decide, hey, we need to decertify this election and recast the ballots and have them hand counted. I'm fine with hand counted ballots. I'm fine with an investigation. I have an issue with telling me an entire election, the entire nation was hoodwinked because, well, this poll says something and sure, it's suspicious and sure, it needs to be investigated, but that's not an election. You don't get to decide, well, he would have actually won by a large margin. That's my issue. And the crux of that's their exit poll data.
I mean, that's a fine point. Okay, yeah, Mr. Right.
I have to stop the conversation. Okay, so we are joined by Pat Spray. Pat, you were muted because of some background noise coming from you. Pat, if you can unmute yourself and say hi to everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so Pat is one of Richard's and I's co-workers from back at BTV days. Pat and I, we did a couple of shows together, among other things when Bernie Sanders visited the Meskwaki tribe in Iowa and held a big rally there. We covered that, and we interviewed a Native American called Dallas Goldtooth, who is very big in the Native community. But that's water under the bridge. Anyway, we did a couple of shows together, and Pat also did a bunch of social media work, and then he started doing his own show called Native Life. Now, I've asked Pat to come and help us out before. He has been elusive, but I've been told about this Native American time, apparently. So that might have something to do with it. But in any case, he has agreed to help us with today's show. So he's going to co-host with me and Richard, and I'm hoping that he is bringing some people to the show. So Pat, why don't you say hi and tell a little bit about yourself and tell us what you got.
Hi, I'm Pat Spray. I'm Potawatomi from the Hannahville Reservation. Born and raised till I was 12 there. English is not my first language, which can be confusing sometimes because the tireder I get, the more I tend to lapse into the sentence structure of the Potawatomi language, but I speak it in English, which means that it sense no make. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get anybody to come in today. There's been a number of reasons for that, but I won't go into them. Basically, I've been active in political and Native American issues since the late 60s, early 70s. Alcatraz, the storming of the BIA headquarters. I've been around all of that, so a little bit of activism there. So that's me. Also, I relocated 3,000 miles, which has kind of kept me busy. We got here to Washington State in late June, and 3,000 miles, 2 wheelchairs, 4 cats in a van, and all of our stuff showed up like a week later, and we've been busy trying to fit it into our glorified cardboard box on the side of a mountain. So that is basically what I've been up to.
Okay. So Pat is going to join us for the show. I hope you're still joining us for the show, man.
Yes, I totally intend to.
Okay, cool. So Pat is going to join us for the show and going to be talking about things. And Adair, if none of your guests show up, then we're going to have you join us as well for the second half at least. And we're going to be talking about Standing Rock Spirit Camp, but Pat also has some information on what is going on in Iowa. And I remember talking with Klaus Goldtooth about this in our last show, that the Key XL pipeline may be dead, but if you look at all these 5 other pipelines and look where they're putting these, then the Key XL pipeline is still very much alive, because they simply stopped calling it the Key XL, and then they had, instead of having one company build it, they had 5 different companies building it and calling it 5 different things.
Yeah, I had a question about that. I was unclear about what you wanted me to find out about that particular thing. I couldn't find much information on the split of the Key XL's pipeline.
No, it's because it wasn't split as such. They simply abandoned the project, and then in the meantime, 5 or 6 new pipelines have been planned that cover the exact same the exact same area.
Okay.
But I can't remember what those pipelines are called. There's one in Iowa and other places. Okay, so Richard, what do you have vis-a-vis news? Have you done your research yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking into the recent shootings. Justin Bramberg was just did the press conference for the family in Charleston, and apparently there's a picture circulating of a gun on scene. But it's very hard to make out, and so the book versus gun is being disputed.
Okay.
And there was some violence last night.
Martial law in Charleston.
Yeah, and see, these police, like, 17 cops were injured, and it's like, yeah, injured. Like, they had, they were traumatized by what they saw or something, so they had to go talk to somebody about it for 5 minutes.
Richard, you may want to find the video. I believe it was on CNN this morning. Obviously, we can't use the video, but it'd be good background for this. There was like a minister who I guess has been a minister there for a long time who talked about the police being the aggressors last night.
Yeah. The police. There's also a Facebook post that Sean King put out. I think I bookmarked it. I thought I bookmarked it. I just retweeted it. But it was from a teacher who was speaking to kids from, I want to say like about 10 years old to 13 or 14. And it's just I think it's powerful. So I was thinking about reading that. I'll see if I can get the link to it real quick.
Okay.
As far as other headlines, I was thinking about checking out The Intercept unless you had something in particular that you wanted to.
No, you're in charge of the news, so I just wanted to hear.
I did put some notes on the DAPL pipeline and the Aboriginals in the Slack, though.
Okay, cool. In the Slack?
I reported both. Well, it's in the Slack.
In the Slack, okay.
Yep.
Eric, the Reverend you were talking about, was he William Barber II?
No, I don't think it was William Barber, but I love William Barber. Nonetheless,
He's in that area.
That might be interesting to look up what he's been saying about it, though. Very interesting. I'm sure he's got a lot of insight.
Yeah, it's the back-end pipeline. Now I remember the name, Brandon. The back-end pipeline, among others, are there's a map out there somewhere. I remember having it once upon a time on a different computer. There's a map where you can see these 5 pipelines actually making up the Key XL pipeline.
Well, I'll find that in the intervening time, but I found out some interesting information about some of the workarounds, environmental workarounds about the DAPL pipeline, and how the Army Corps of Engineers are skirting environmental protection laws to get stuff like this passed without environmental impact statements.
Okay.
by treating each individual part of the pipeline as one pipeline that's under an acre, as opposed to one huge pipeline.
Right. This is called option 12.
It's called it's like Special Permit 12.
Yep.
So basically, they break up a 12,000 mile pipeline into 12,000 mile pipelines. Bureaucratically, because if you do it that way, you don't have to do environmental statement.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, basically they're using a loophole that was put in there so that it would make it easier for pipeline companies to maintain and route around problem sections of pipeline. And so that's what the option 12 was there for. However, its purpose has been subverted to, as you said, take a 12,000 mile pipeline and make it into 12,000 1 mile pipelines.
Yeah, it's absurd.
There's way too much shit going on.
Yeah, there is.
I spent the better part of last night watching Fox News covering Charleston downtown. They actually did a really good job.
Wow.
I was surprised. Yeah, well, it was the live feed. It wasn't what was packaged up to show on the news. It was
Right.
basically their live feed, and they had a female reporter who was actually being very balanced. It was right after the gentleman had been killed, as the news was reporting it as protester on protester violence, and there was actually stuff that was going on Twitter and Facebook at the time that it was actually the cops that had killed the guy, and the reporter was actually saying, the police say this, the protesters say that. You know, we're not here to say which one's right and which one's wrong. That's just what's going on.
What?
So I was shocked, and actually hung out for a couple of hours until they did a shift change, and the next reporter wasn't as good.
Right. I mean, I know that they're currently reporting that the officer that shot him was black. It was not. It was a white officer that shot him, but for whatever reason, and the police know it, but they're continuing to push this narrative that a black officer shot a black dude. Not that, frankly, that really changes shit, but
it's still a person who's supposed to serve and protect killing someone who isn't a threat.
Exactly. Yep.
They are, according to the Supreme Court in early 2000, police are not there to serve and protect. The police are there to enforce the laws. That's their only function.
well,
Nice to know.
that definitely makes my move a little bit more frightening.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll change it back to how it should be.
You mean change it to what it should be, not back to like it's never been.
Yes, exactly.
There's no back to.
Correct.
Like,
you're right. No, you're right. I misspoke.
Even when community policing existed, like there was a lot of those cops that walked a beat like alone, like, oh, this is my beat. Yeah, let me go into the shop and shake down this shop holder. Like, one of my friends has a saying about police, like you gotta be a police officer because that's the best organized gang on the street. Like, there's no better gang to be a member of.
That is incredible.
Yeah, my grandpa has been a police officer for 30 years, and he openly admits those kind of things. Nothing like pulling over high school kids who were drinking and taking their beer, and nothing super big, but still, that's not something that you should be doing while you're on duty, is taking their beer and getting drunk.
Nope.
So
it's like that's why I crossed cop off my potential job list a long time ago. It's like, I can't do that. I'm not gonna be snitching on my friends or the people around. Like, no, this is not gonna work. I'm not gonna be able to do that. It's like, That's what I expected them to be doing. It was like, no, they're just like, oh, buddies in blue, yeah, whatever. We'll help you plant this gun. We'll fake this report. We'll make up this crime. We'll whatever. It's like same thing with lawyer.
The cops, I'm actually friends with lawyers. They're really nice people. It's shocking. But the cops got caught in St. Louis planting a gun on a dude that they'd shot. Like, caught doing it. And then another video just came out where the cops were caught talking about planting evidence on their fucking dash cam. If you're a person of color and you talk about the police, you're just fucking paranoid, man. You're just paranoid, dude. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't have any reason to be afraid.
There's a couple bad apples out there, and you're just magnifying the problem. This stuff barely ever happens. It's like,
if you just follow their directions,
enough to get caught on camera at least once a month.
Okay.
Follow their directions, and you won't get shot, man. Just listen.
It's hands up.
Richard, you get the news ready, and I linked you something in Slack that it's up to you whether or not we have room for it or not. Adair, you keep trying your connects. If there's no go on the connects, then we do a bit about the racial justice and violence. And Pat, I know that you as a native can speak to that as well from your perspective. So then that becomes our first hour, and then the second hour we keep trying to get a hold of people, and then if we don't get a hold of anyone for the second hour, I'm going to be slightly sad, but then we simply go into Brandon's research paper, which I'm going to be reading carefully, and talk about the pipeline projects and the failed pipeline projects in where their pipes are leaking right now in Alabama and in South America. And if any of you remember any stories, everyone knows about the electric car, but there's a German car company, I can't remember which, we found out about this when we were honeymooning in Berlin. It has pledged that within, I can't remember if it's 5 or 10 years, it will not make fossil fuel cars anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's either Mercedes, Volkswagen, or BMW, but I can't remember which. They pledged that.
In France, there's this really cool car company that is working on an air-powered car.
Mm-hmm.
Works on compressed air.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That sounds amazing.
Is this going to be the same is this the same hangout for tonight's episode?
I'll probably create a new one.
Yeah, Eric's going to create a new one. But if you need a link, then Eric, you make it, okay?
I need it quick so I can send it to them. Getting it to my contacts now is going to be the best way to make sure we get them on the show.
Okay.
All right, I'll be at my computer in about 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. So everyone has their...
What time does it start?
6:30 we go green room, and 7 we go live.
It's
okay, got it.
That he's in Eastern time.
Yeah.
And,
but I'm in my office. My office has got a name. It's the TARDIS. Mm-hmm. It's bigger on the inside than it looks like from the outside, and it exists on East Coast time.
No, he's not
every
kidding.
clock
His
in here, my computer, everything else is set to East Coast time.
Interesting.
So Miguel, I could probably get Miguel to come on. He's about to go back out to Standing Rock again.
Can you?
I think I could. Yeah, I'll hit him up. He's been on before, and he's an awesome. Like I've said, he's an awesome guy. He's very low key. So maybe not stay with him too long, but he's definitely got a great heart, and his heart's in the right spot, and he has some knowledge from being out there, and he's about to go back. So.
Okay, so if he can come on between 6 and 7, between 7 and 8, that would be amazing.
Cool. I'll hit him up and see if we can grab him.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, 6:30, and as always, if anything urgent develops, just do an ad channel. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
And just on the video that you showed, I think it might be a good kind of palate cleanser. Is the first part's going to be rough, and then I imagine the second part's going to get pretty rough. So, I think mixing it somewhere in between there will work good to give people a little levity.
Okay,
so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do we
I
have
don't know
any
if it's really
ideas
newsworthy,
for?
but I like it as that.
Do we have any idea for a moment of sanity?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay. I know. Pat.
Elizabeth Warren?
No.
No. All right, I like it. Sorry.
What about Elizabeth Warren? What about
Her
her?
ripping
That
the
thing where
Wells
she
Fargo.
chewed out the Wells Fargo guy?
She even called out her own people for corruption late, but she did it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. I've lost all faith and credence in that woman.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand either, but I did like that what she did. I
I feel like it qualifies as a moment of sanity. You know what I mean? Like, that she was momentarily sane, but too little, too late.
Okay.
I'm presuming you haven't seen the clip, though. Basically.
No, I've seen it, and it's very nice. And she's trying to smack down him and stuff like that. And is he held in contempt of Congress? No.
no.
Is he thrown into jail? No. Is he fined? No. Does anything significant happen other than she gets a 2.5-minute Facebook video that goes viral? No. Okay, I'm done.
Moment of sanity. Steelers are 2-0.
So are the Broncos.
Okay, so if any of you have the last show I did with Pat, I ended it with the Native American ranting against an anti-immigrant protest that was going on. He was just with his stroller with his little kid in it on the sidewalk. Then he saw a bunch of Republicans having a rally against immigrants, and he just wailed on it until they dispersed and went away. About them being illegal immigrants. And another video I've used with Pat before is I'm an Indian Too, which is a 4091s. It's a comedian group. They've done this feel-good video where they're at this big market where they have this completely white guy. He is as Native American as you get.
He's not white.
He's
Ryan Redcorn.
It's so fucking white. It's ridiculous. And he looks so much like a white guy, but he is as Native American as you can get. And he walks around with the big chief headscarf and just half naked and dances with random people while this cool music, happy music goes on in the background. It's an amazing video. So I don't know if we want to use any of that, but or if Pat, if you have any other gems locked up somewhere.
If there's any good, reasonably short clips from the No Dapple rants, if there's any good ones of those, that might be good. Like people,
okay.
the water kind of
what about the one that from the climate march? I can't think of the name of the group now. I'll find it and send you a link. Ness.
Okay, do
see
that.
If you want to use it, it's on my channel, but and so we've already used it on the air, and it didn't get pulled, and we didn't get ourselves in big trouble over it. So
okay, send it to me. I'll take a look at it.
All right.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll see you guys in an hour and a half.
All right, Eric, I need the link ASAP, man.
Yep.